This conference will now be recorded.
So this table is everything. Okay, we must understand the structure of this table. Okay, the structure of this table. If you are able to work on this table with operations, the operations that we are going to use in PCS, right? So if you know how to use those operations on this table, almost 80% of the PCRs are completed. That's all. Clear? So 80% of the PCRs we write to work on this table only. Okay, because this table and RT table have ORT table, RT table and ID table. Okay, have the same structure. Look at this. This is the ID table, right? If I want to store these results in the database, then I have to move this waste type to the RT table. Look at RT table structure. So it is the same thing, right? So let's understand this. What we have exactly in this IT table. Okay, what we have in this IT table. See the waste type code you see, and the waste type text you see, right? And along with this, you have rate field, and you have a number field, and you have amount field. Okay, so let me show you those things in IT table. IT or OT, whatever. There is a 4-digit waste type code. There is a description. See, amount per unit. Amount per unit is nothing but rate, and a number field. Okay, and a number field, and amount field, and amount field. So waste type code, waste type text, and waste type, okay, rate field, number field, and amount field. But along with this, there are some indicators here. You see, there is a star over here, right? There is a star. There is a 3 for some other waste types, right? And also we have some indicators here. Okay, AP is one indicator, C1, C2, C3. Okay, like this. If you expand, you can see them clearly. What are those indicators? Okay, what are those indicators? You see, waste type code, waste type text. Okay, first indicator, second indicator. There are multiple indicators here, right? Multiple indicators here, right from here to here. Okay, here to here. WC to the unit. These are indicators. These are indicators. Okay, this is the first indicator. These are the other indicators we see. These indicators are called splits. These indicators are called split indicators. Okay, so split indicator, understanding the split indicator is the most important part, and actually it is the complex part in payroll. Clear? Working with the split, how the splits are created, this is the most important part and complex one in payroll. Okay, what is the purpose of the split indicator? So this split indicator is a relation between this waste type in this table with the data, okay, with the other data. For example, let's understand the first split indicator. Okay, here you see WPVP table is there, right? There is a table called WPVP. Now, yesterday we were discussing about this thing, right? What is the paid in a WPVP? And I have given you the definitions of a start date and end date. Okay, I have given a definition of a start date and end date. And there is a split in WPVP. There is a split in WPVP. What do you mean by split in WPVP? If you make any changes, in it is 0, 1, 7, 8, and 27. If you make any changes to these info types with the date mid of the pay period, okay, with the mid of the pay period date, that would lead to the split in WPVP. That would lead to the split in WPVP. So whatever the fields we are importing, okay, from all these info tabs will be updated for each split. Okay, so this is the data. This is a valid data between this date to this date, and this is a valid data of those 5 info tabs between this date to this date. Okay, and this is a valid data of the third split. Okay, or for this period, this is a valid data. Why this split is created? See, for example, I have changed employee location. I transferred employee using a personal action in the middle of the pay period on 21st, right? When I transfer the employee to other location, that location will have a different holiday calendars. That location may have a different work schedules. That location may have a different uh, the pay structure applicable, right? Okay, so let's take location Hyderabad earlier. Now the location is Bangalore. For Bangalore, there is a different calculation. For Hyderabad, there is a different calculation. Okay, there is a different way of calculating the bonus in Bangalore. There is a different way of calculating the bonus in Hyderabad, right? So it depends on the validity of that record of the bonus. It should apply the formula. For example, if that record is okay updated with the date between 01 to 20, then the bonus is calculated with the formula applicable in Hyderabad location. If I update the same bonus with the date, okay, after 21st, then it would apply the formula, okay, which is applicable to Bangalore location. Clear? Okay. So this data is very, very important. Okay. This WPP data is very, very important. So whenever there is a change, the change can be anything. The change can be employee group, the change can be cost center, location, or a position, or work schedule, or a pay grade. Okay. And every change, okay, every change might bring the change in the policy. Okay. When I say policy, it is consider this is a PCR. Clear? Okay. So, for example, when employee changed from contract to permanent during the middle of the month. Now, contract employees have different rules applicable. Permanent employees have different rules applicable. So, you have to have a split in WBBP. If you do not split in WBBP, how would you know on which days contract rule is applicable, on which days the permanent rule is applicable? So, which is why WBBP split is created. Usually, there would be one split or a two split, three splits, maximum four splits you see. Okay, you will not expect those many, you will not maintain normally those many mass data changes, within a pay period. Generally, two or three is common, but beyond three is rare, very rare case. Okay, so three different partial periods. This is called partial period. It is not a full period, right? This is called partial period. When there are no any changes in the middle of the month, when there are no any changes during the pay period in these info tabs, your partial period and full period both are same. Okay, the meaning of a partial period and then full period, the definition of a partial period and full period for this employee is same. But if there is a change in these info tabs during the pay period, then there would be partial periods. Okay, there would be more than one partial periods. Clear? So the dates of partial periods are very, very important. The dates of these partial periods are very, very important. Now, when you look at the IT table, your IT table also will be updated accordingly. Okay, your IT table also will be updated accordingly. If you go to IT table, you see there are three basic salaries, there are three uniform allowances, there are three transport allowances, there are three special allowances. Okay, there are three special allowances. So if I have four splits here, then you would see four entries for every waste time. Okay, four entries for every waste time. Okay, if I have two splits, then you would see two entries for every waste time. For example, now I'm removing a split of info tab 8. I have removed just one split, but there is another split that I have executed in actions. It is from 26. Now let's run and see how many. Now there are only two splits, right? Okay. Now, if I go to ID table, and there is a first split and the second split, first split and the second split. So first split basic salary, the second split basic salary. First split uniform allowance, second split uniform allowance, right? So the system will update the IT table according to the WPBP splits. Now, so how do you know this belongs to the first split, and how do you know this belongs to the second split? Okay, so you see the indicator here, the first indicator under AP, it says WPBP assignment, right? So this is the first split we need to discuss. Okay, so this 2-digit number is the split indicator of what? WPBP table. Okay, so or else you can consider this as the link between, this is a kind of a link between WPBP and then IT table. Okay, IT table where start and then WPBP table. Clear? IT table and then WPBP table. So how do you know? Suppose if you go to IT table, so this belongs to which period? This belongs to this period. How do you know what is this period? Okay, so look at what is the split. It is WPBP split, right? Go to the WPBP table and then you see indicator. So splits are split indicators. Pointers to the data, okay, of to the data of the waste type stored in other tables. Okay, the data of the waste type stored in other waste type. Okay. So why this split is required? Why this split is required? Let me remove this split also. I'll just tell you why the splits are created. A WPBP split is created. Okay. Now there are no splits. There are no splits. Only one entry is there. Okay, in IT table also only one entry is there. So why these indicators are created? First reason, I cannot store this data for every waste type again and again, right? Or why separate table is created? Why separate table is created? So this entire data is stored with a key 01, with a key 01, and then this key is assigned to this waste type. Okay, that is how SAP has created the solution. Okay, suppose if this key is not there, if I want to put the same data for every waste type, okay, here, how much database it will occupy, how much runtime database it will occupy. Okay, and it doesn't look good and we cannot work easily on it, right? It is very confusing. And if you are storing the same data again and again, if I have 100 wire steps, I have to store the same data again and again within the ID table, right? Okay. So ID table itself has a many fields here. Along with this, if you want to fill this wire steps, company code, employee group, subgroup, what is this wire steps, personal area, all these cost centers and every data, it occupies huge database, data memory. It will occupy huge memory, runtime memory. Clear? Okay. The reason why, basic reason why these many tables are there in SAP. Okay. These many tables are there in SAP. Why can't we put all the data like a company code, employee groups, subgroups, okay, employee data in a single table? You take simple example within employee. For one employee, why can't you have a single table? Why can't you have a single table for all the data of an employee? Okay, address, phone numbers, attendances, absences, payments, and deductions. The reason is what? There is a data. Okay, one-time maintenance data. One-time maintained data. There is a data which is recurringly maintained data, right? Okay. For example, if I have to book the attendance of an employee, okay, should I record employee group, subgroup, and location, address, phone number again and again? Not required, right? You can simply record with what? Personal number. You take the employee ID and you record all attendances and absences, payments and deductions. Okay. So for every data maintenance, if you have to load employee first name, last name, date of birth, address, all this again and again, it's a huge data entry as well as it will occupy huge space in the database. That is why there is a table linking. Okay, when you are creating a master data, that master data is represented by personal number, employee ID. Okay, all his education, all his previous employees data, skills, personal details, and dependent details, and everything is stored in a table with the indicator personal number. And using that personal number, you are filling attendance and absence, which is a day-to-day data. It's the same thing here. Okay, consider this is a personal number and it has all this data, and you are linking this number with this waste tab. So that means what? This waste tab, okay, contains, or this waste tab belongs to this particular data in the WPP table. Clear? Okay. So now here, what I do is I'll increase the grade. Okay, I'll increase the grade effective from this is not original salary of this employee. Let me get the original salary. This is the original salary of employee. Okay. Now what I do, I'll increase the grade of employee to 2. Effective from when? Effective from 21st. Okay. Then the salary is increased to 35,000. Now tell me, how much should I pay to this employee? How much should I pay to this employee? This is April month. So this is a reason why the splits are created. Now tell me, how much do I need to pay the employee? First 1 to 20. How much salary we have? Basic pay 30,000. And 21st to 30. How much we have? 35,000. Okay. You tell me, how much do I need to pay to this employee? Should I pay 65,000 to this employee? Or you at least tell me the formula to pay the employee. Anyone?
I think for the
Anyone?
last 10 days, we need to divide 35,000 by 10. I'm not sure. So
35,000 divided by 10.
And 30,000 divided by 20. And accordingly, we
Suppose,
have to calculate the per day salary.
okay, suppose if this
Total-
employee joins on,
partial days divided by total days that factor into this amount.
okay, partial days, how many? 20?
I can say, sir. So first 20 days, we have to get a day rate. 30,000 into 20 by 30. You can get the day rate. So into 20 days. That is for first 20 days of payment. And the next 10
How do we get the
days.
day- okay, how do we get the day rate? So look at this. For this 20 days, daily rate is what? 30,000 divided by 30.
20 days.
Okay. No,
Yeah,
it is
30
30,000
days,
divided by 30. Okay.
Yes, yes.
And for this 10 days, what is the daily rate? Because the basic salary for the month is 35. This is the value for the month. This is the value for the pay period. Yeah, this is the value for the pay period. So
Yes,
remember this, what you maintain in InfoTab 8 is not a actual amount. What you maintain in InfoTab 8 is nominal amount. The actual amounts are calculated in payroll only. So when I'm maintaining this value in InfoTab 8, what it means? This is the value for the pay period. If employee is in a grade 1, a level 1, and this is the value for the pay period when employee is in level 2, right? That means if I have to find out what is the daily rate, then you need to divide it by 30. You get a daily rate, okay? And this daily rate is multiplied with what? How many active days? It is 20 active days, okay? And this daily rate is multiplied with what? How many active days? 10 days.
11.
10 days.
Okay, so 10 days. So this you will get the actual amount. You will get the actual amount. Now one more important point. Employee has taken unpaid leave right from 27 to 17 to 22. Then this unpaid leave he has applied. Okay. Now how do you pay?
Again, same set, like first 17 days on daily basis day rate, we have to give that in the first proration 30,000, and we have to deduct 2 days in the second proration, and that means 8 days of 35,000, whatever the day rate is coming, that multiply, that is the amount.
So this is how we prorate it. See, the 17 to 20 is there, and this also will have to be split. If you do not split, you will not be able to arrive the right value. Okay, the 17 to 20 is there in the first partial period, right? And 21 to 30 is there in the second partial period. Okay, why we need to split? Why we need to split the absences also? It's because this has a different daily rate and this has a different daily rate, right? This has a different daily rate and this has a different daily rate. So which is why here, okay, 10 minus 2. Okay, so if the split concept is not there, you will not be able to perform these valuations. Is there any other way that you can perform this valuation without splitting the periods and counting the active days individually? Is it possible? Is it possible to calculate, okay, on 30 days basis directly without splitting the active days of an employee? You need to split active days, you need to split absences, okay, you need to split the cost center data changes. Every change you have to split. Clear? Okay, so you can write this formula like this also, right? You can shift it to this side. Okay, so this is called factoring or salary proration. Salary proration or factoring, which we discuss later. Okay, so without splitting the WPBP, this is not possible to calculate the proration. Okay, it is not possible to calculate the proration. Understood? One more example. Why the split is required? My hourly rate is, okay, the pay period salary divided by number of hours in pay period. Okay, what is my hourly rate now? Let's say number of hours in pay period is 200 అనుకుందాం. Okay, 200 or 100 తీసుకోండి to calculate it easily. What is my hourly rate? Employee has worked OT on 15th. He worked 10 hours of OT. Okay, on 25th he worked again 10 hours of OT. Okay, again 10 hours. How much do I need to pay for the overtime? So overtime formula is equal to number of hours into hourly rate. How much do I need to pay this employee? Tell me. First, what is my hourly rate and what is my overtime value?
Considering first 15, there are no absence, 8 hours a day. If we consider that way,
No. Forget about absences. Here I'm not discussing about absences. I'm discussing about overtime.
yeah, what
Overtime.
you yeah, number of 15 days hours divided by 100 hours, you will get the per hour.
No. I have already given, let's say, in a month, in my work schedule, I have 100 hours. Okay. So, pay period salary or basic salary divided by, okay, number of hours in a pay period. Now, what is the value of overtime? Total overtime to be paid to the employee.
Its hourly rate is 300 per hour into 10 hours.
So, I mean,
So
are
it will,
you considering same 35,000? If not, your basic salary, assume that is 30,000 divided by 100 hours, you will get per hour. That
Next.
will be multiplied if okay.
So here we will have two hourly rates again. Okay, the hourly rates also will be calculated based on the partial period. Look at this. The first hourly rate. What is the hourly rate during this partial period? Okay, so it is 30,000 divided by 100. So you get hourly rate 300. Okay, and the second partial period, the hourly rate is, okay, you get 350 per hour. That means this is the number of hours recorded on which date? 15th. 15th is related to which date? Which period? First partial period. Okay, this 25th is related to which partial period? Second partial period. So here it is 300 into, okay, this is into 350. So again, without a split, this would not be possible. Okay, so these are the reasons why the split is required. Okay, that means system calculates for each partial period separately until the end of the payroll. Okay, the value of every wage step is separately calculated. So this partial period value is different and this partial period value is different. This partial period value is what? 20 into 20 divided by 30 into, okay, 30,000. This value is what? 10 divided by 30 into 35,000. Okay, assuming no absences. Clear? So this value separately calculated and this value separately calculated until the end of the payroll. Okay, if you look at this, my ID table has So I have two A steps here, okay, 30,000 and 35,000. But once all the valuations, I'm not explaining the proration. My point is not to explain the proration now. I want you to understand what is a split, why the split is required. If you look at the final table, RT table, you see basic salary, okay, it is prorated and this is also prorated. So this is the total that we need to pay. See, even in the RT table, result table, these two are not clubbed. These two are not clubbed. Okay, even in the RT table, which is a final table, okay, final table that is going to be stored in a database. Okay, so in this RT table, okay, these two values are not clubbed. But when I look at the payslip, okay, in payslip I can show it as a single amount. If I show it as a, two amounts, basic salary, employee will be confused. Why we have a two basic salaries here? Clear. In payslip we can club it. This is just for a display purpose. But when you look at the RT table, in final result also we are not adding the basic salary here, right? We are not adding the basic salary into a single entry. Clear? Okay. So what is the reason? What do you think is the reason? See here, the reason is, this is very important. See, this has WBBP split 0-1 and this has WBBP split 0-2, right? And you don't know what is the change or what is the difference between this and this in the data, WBP data. The change may be a cost center change. For example, here there is a cost center 1, but when I'm changing my position, okay, in the promotion, when I change the position, automatically cost center also will get changed. There is a chance of changing the cost center, right? So there is a cost center K1, there is a cost center K2. So the cost during this period should be debited in this cost center while you are executing the posting to finance. Okay, after running the payroll, what is the next activity? Posting to finance, right? After banking, there is an activity called posting to finance. Okay, so while running the posting to finance, the first partial period cost and the second partial period cost should be debited in their master data, master cost center. Okay, look at this in WBBP. The change may be a cost center change. The change may be a cost center change here. Here there can be a different cost center. Here there can be a different cost center. So the cost of this period should be debited to this cost center. The cost of this period should be debited to this cost center. So if I don't, okay, keep the split indicators as it is. If I don't keep the split indicators as it is in RT table, okay, it will have only one split indicator, either 0-1 or 0-2. Now what will happen? This entire 31,000 will be posted to one cost center only, right? See, employee payment wise, there is no difference. Even if you have two splits, you will be paying 31,000 change. Clear? But when it comes to the posting, okay, if you have single record here instead of two, this entire cost will be either debited in the first cost center or debited in the second cost center, which is incorrect. So the cost of the split in the cost will not happen if you do not keep the split as it is in the RT table also. This is the third reason. Okay, so I have explained a simple three reasons why we need a split in WBBP. Clear? if you want to prorate the salary, you need a split indicator. If you want to calculate the hourly rates, you need to have a separate split indicator. If you want to post the finance, okay, and post the amounts to the right accounts, okay, right cost centers, right GL accounts, you need a split indicator, right? So this much impact we have, okay, on one split indicator here. Understood? So split indicator, this split indicator is a pointer to the data of this phase tab. This is the first split indicator. Okay, for first split indicator. By any chance, if you delete the split indicator of this phase tab, okay, we can manipulate this data. In the manipulation, suppose if you delete the split indicator of this phase tab, that means you are disconnecting the relation between this phase tab and then WPVP. Okay, you are disconnecting the relation between this phase tab and WPVP. Now, when I'm calling the personal area of this phase tab, what system does is it will always refer to the latest split indicator personal area. Okay, latest split indicator personal area. When I don't have any split, it won't pick the right one. It will always refer to the latest split indicator. Remember it. Okay. So we have, let's say I have a personal area different here and I have a different personal area here. Okay, let's say here I have Hyderabad and here I have Bangalore. Okay, Bangalore. Now I'm writing the rule. For the waste tab 1B00. Okay, in that rule I say if condition, if my personal area is equal to this, apply this formula. If this waste tab personal area is equal to this, apply this formula. Okay, so you have written the rule like that. Now you remove the split indicator. Okay, you remove the split indicator and you kept it blank here. Now for this waste tab, for this entry, system always refers the latest WPVP data. Okay, which may be correct or may not be correct. Okay, so while you are playing with the split indicators, you need to be very cautious. You need to be very careful. So this is the first split indicator we are discussing. Okay, the second split indicator. You see, this is the second split indicator. Okay, what is this 3? So first one is what? WPVP split indicator. Okay, it is the relation between waste tab from which tables? IT, RT, ORT. These 3 have those split indicators. Same structure. It is a relation between the waste tab, okay, and WP, BP data. Okay, now the next split indicator. Employee subgroup grouping for PCL. Okay, what is it? So this is taken from where? It is taken from V_503_all. Okay, V_503_all. See your employee subgroups. Okay, so you see WPVP table. Here we have employee group P and employee subgroup is what? Okay, 2M, and you see calculation rule. Okay, calculation rule, grouping for the calculation rule. So this field is taken from where? Okay, this field is taken from V_503_all. This is the first step that you have done when you are working on input app 8. In input app 8 configuration, the first step is what? Assigning employee subgroup grouping and then CAP grouping, right? So if you go to this table, so at the time I did not explain what is this PCR grouping. So if you look at now, Okay, here there is a PCR grouping and there is a CAP grouping. So I told you, when it is a salaried employee, maintain 3 as a calculation rule. When it is a hourly employee, maintain 1 as a calculation rule grouping. Okay, so what will happen now? Remember this point. Whenever the waste type is imported from master data, which means info types. Okay, info types. It is stored. The waste type is stored in ID table along with ESD grouping for PCR. Okay, and it determines what is the purpose of this. It determines what logic, okay, what logic is applied in PCR. Okay, what calculation rule is applied in the PCR, or calculation rule on what logic or what rule is applied on the PCR. Let me show you. This employee is a salaried employee, and this employee subgroup grouping for PCR, you can see it here. What is this? This is 3, right? Which is why whenever the waste step is imported to IT table, it is imported with its employee subgroup grouping for PCR. If it is 3 salaried employee, it is 3. If it is hourly employee, it is 1. Okay, it is hourly employee, it is 1. Even if you go to input type 15, okay, even if you go to input type 15, when you are importing the waste type from 15, 14, etc., those are first imported to ID table along with its employee subgroup grouping for PCR. Why? In the PCRs, let me show you one PCR here. In the PCRs, okay, you may not understand what is a PCR now, but just look at the PCR. This is a PCR name, X013. Okay, in the PCR, this PCR is used to calculate the rates. This PCR is used to calculate the rates. Okay, now if you look at this PCR, the first level in the PCR is what employee subgroup grouping for PCR. So if that waste type has a 3, right? Okay, now it goes here and this logic is applied. Okay, if that waste type has a 1, means hourly employee. Okay, and it goes here and this logic is applied. So that means what? I can write a different business logic for the hourly employee in the same rule. I can write a different logic for the salaried employee waste types in the same rule. Understood? Okay, so this is the actual purpose of employee subgroup grouping for PCR. Employee subgroup grouping for PCR. Clear? So that waste types, okay, in every country, it is not just in India. In every country, when the waste type is imported to ID table, it is imported with its employee subgroup grouping for PCR in WPBP. Okay, now that determines what logic is applicable to that waste type. Clear? If that waste type has a star, it goes here. If that waste type has a 1 as an employee subgroup grouping for PCR, it goes here. If that waste type has a 3, it goes here. Okay, look at that. One more rule, X010. Okay, X010. If you go to this, here also we have star 1, 2, 3. Okay, now if you look at this, okay, you have your waste type. You have your waste type 1B00. Where it is going in this rule? It is going where? It is going through 3, and 3 has some logic and that is executed. Forget about what logic we have here. What is this operation? We're going to learn it later. But it is executed through 3, right? If this waste type has a 1, okay, if this waste type had 1, then it would have been executed through this one. This logic is applied. So this is a importance of employee subgroup grouping for PCR. and using that employee subgroup grouping for PCR, we can write a different rules or different business logics for the hourly employees and different business logics for the salaried employees. Suppose if there is a rule, for which the logic is same, okay, for salaried employee and hourly employees, for both of them the logic is same. Then you can write that rule with a simple star. You do not have to write with 1 and 3. You can write that rule with a simple star. So this is executed for both of them. So that means you can write a rule which is common for both hourly employee and the salaried employee. You can write a rule which is different from salaried employee to hourly employee. So it depends on your client requirements. Okay, I'm not going to create a separate schema for hourly employee, and I'm not going to create separate schema for salaried employees. Irrespective of the number of company codes and number of frequencies, number of company codes and the number of frequencies within a country, I will be using one schema only for both salaried employee and hourly employees. Wherever there is a difference between hourly employee and the salaried employee, I write with employee subgroup grouping for PCR. If the logic is not different based on employee subgroup grouping for PCR, it is based on, let's say, cost center of employee, or it is based on employee location of employee, then I can also write the such conditions within operation level. Within a PCR level, I can write those conditions. But at a very first level, what do you see in the PCR? Employee subgroup grouping for PCR. You are dividing the logic here itself, between salaried employee and hourly employees. So we have two split indicators. So in PCRs, we use these indicators for both of them. For WBPP split indicator, we use alphabet A, to represent employee subgroup grouping for PCR, we use alphabet R. These are the indicators, to identify the split or to work with the split indicators. Where are we going to use A and R? We will discuss about this later. So we will have to discuss all the splits of this ID table, and that is the most important part of any country payroll. If you understand this split indicator purpose, the payroll PCRs are very easy. Very easy. But it's difficult to understand the split indicators. But once you understand, you can play with the PCRs. So split indicator is simple. It is a link between your wage type in IT table or RT table or ORT table, and the data. The data, cost center data, the data WBP data, bank transfer data. There is a data stored in other tables. So this wage type can have a link between the wage type and then the data in the other tables. What type of split indicators do you see going forward? You will be seeing, we are done with the two split indicators, right? We have a link between, cost center, C1 table, BT table, wage type and cost center, wage type and bank transfer, and we have a link between wage type and alternative payment table. We have a link between wage type and variable information. Going forward, you will see the splits of these indicators, these tables also. And it is what else? C1, BT, LP, units. Units is a configuration table. It is, let's say, T538. T538, and country specific splits means these are used for the country specific taxes, provident funds, professional taxes, etc. So these three are used within the country to country. These three splits are changed, but whatever the splits we are discussing now here, from here to here, the highlighted ones are common for all countries. The highlighted splits are common for all countries. So going forward, you will be discussing okay, about the split indicators also. Okay, and when we are discussing about the Indian legislation, we will be discussing about these three split indicators. These three split indicators. Okay, so the split indicators for this is cos center K. I don't remember these things. These are the indicators we are going to use to identify the splits. Here you see the split indicators. Cost center is U. Sorry, bank transfer is U. Okay, so forget about this. Do not worry about these things. We are going to work on it later. Okay, but most important splits are these two splits and cost center split also. Okay, these three splits you need to be very, very careful. You must not delete them. You must not delete these splits for the earnings. Okay, so now, okay, let me give you the operations that we are going to use to work with this fields of ID table. Fields of ID table. Okay, look at this. If you look at ID table, these operations we are going to use in PCR level. Okay, we have an amount, we have a number, and we have a rate. Okay, so if I want to work with, if I want to modify or perform any arithmetic calculations on number field, rate field, we have these three operations. The rate is operation, number is operation, amount is operation. This operation we are going to use to perform arithmetic calculations on amount field. This operation we are going to use to perform arithmetic calculations on a number field. This operation we are going to use to perform arithmetic operations on the rate field. Okay, and if I want to work on the splits, then we have certain operations. Okay, these are the operations to change the split indicators. Okay, there are other operations also. So these operations are used to modify the split indicators here of the waste type. I can change this to 01 to 02, but normally we don't change. I can delete the existing split indicators here. Okay, I can keep another split indicator here. Why we do it and in what case we do it, okay, we cannot discuss now. Okay, but just remember it. We have every operation. We have operation to change anything in this table. Even if I want to change the waste type code, even if I want to change the code of this waste type, I can change it using operations. If I want to replace the waste type, I can change it using operations, REWT, okay, and waste type, etc. So any field in this table, ID table, can be changed by these operations, but you need to use them in the right way in appropriate requirements. Clear? Okay, you cannot simply delete because for this rule, let's say you are getting some error in this rule. Okay, to work for this employee, if you simply delete the split, it might have a negative impact on other employees. So that is why the payroll is very, very sensitive. It is the designing of a schema is nothing but you're writing a formula, and that formula will be used for all the employees of this company. Okay, that formula will be used for all the employees of this company. If this company has 10,000 employees, whatever the formula you are writing in the schema is applied on 10,000 employees. So if this formula is incorrect, you are paying an incorrect salary for all 10,000 employees. Okay, so when you are editing or writing the rule, keep these things in mind. It affects everyone. Anything that you are doing in a schema affects every employee in this company. Okay, just to execute successfully for one employee, if you don't write the formula properly and if you do some manipulations here, it will have a negative impact on other employees. So you need to have a good knowledge in what situation we will be using these operations. Okay, and if I use this operation, what is the impact? Without having that knowledge, blindly we cannot change for one employee or to resolve one issues or two issues. If you are doing it like that, okay, end user may not be able to identify that error immediately in this month, but the issue will be multiplied and multiplied continuously. Okay, going forward. For example, if you run it in the next month, there will be more number of issues. In the next month, even more number of issues. The issues will be increased continuously and multiplying. Clear? Then if end user identified and if he asks you to resolve that issue, and it is very difficult for you to rectify it retrospectively. So you have to give a right solution. What is called right solution for any issue? How do you know which is the right solution? If you work on one issue, if you resolve one issue, and that issue must not be repeated in the next month payroll, and that issue must not be repeated in the future. Okay, but if you correct the issue, it worked in this month, but in the next month it is not working in another case. That means you made a mess in the schema, and it is going to create multiple problems going forward. The more number of payroll periods completed, the more problems you will have. Okay, the better solution means if you provide any solution, it must not be repeated in the future. If it is repeated, that means you have not given a right solution. You made a blunder when you are correcting it. Okay, it is very sensitive. If any company, see, if you write a simple formula change, let's say that formula is paying 10% extra in one component. Okay, end user have not identified it, and I have 10,000 employees in the company, and for all 10,000 employees, I am paying some amount 10% extra. How much difference it is? So this payroll is very, very sensitive. Okay, whenever you are making a changes, positive impact and negative impact, you need to have a complete knowledge on it, and you need to do all the testings. Okay, so that's all for now. So today I just explained what is a partial period and what is a split indicator, WBBP, and tomorrow I'll show you the rules on it. Okay. Any questions? No questions. Okay, that's all for today then.